International Men's Day was on Thursday and celebrated the positive values that men bring globally to their families and communities. Their theme is better health for men and boys and the importance of positive role models. Joining me live now is Paul Spinks, paramedic and founder of Wake Up Call. Paul, always great to see you. How important is it to have positive role models in our lives?
Yeah, hi, Janie. Thanks for having me on your show again. Look, absolutely, on a scale of 1 to 10, great role models, elders, they're absolutely gold. I guess if you look at the evolution of mankind, we've always had great elders. We've always had great go-to people. So it's crucially important. But I think especially over the last maybe 10 or so years, I think we've lost our great elders. I think we've lost our dial-up people. I remember 20 years ago, I could have rattled them off who they were, and now I'm struggling a bit. So we need to recruit more men in that area and just realise the importance of optimism and hope and people that have a sixth sense to get into in our minds in our darkest hours. So really important.
You are a paramedic and you're the founder of Wake Up Call. You have a huge responsibility. You see a lot of what goes on and you're a trauma counsellor as well. Give us an understanding of what you've seen through this pandemic and how serious it is from your perspective.
Yeah, look, it's a difficult question. I guess if focusing on the Men's International Day perspective, but I think yes, I've seen a spike in suicide. Yes, we've seen a massive spike in mental health, but I guess when you look at it all, when you sort of say, what are the major issues here? We're out of hope. We're out of luck. We've lost control. As the warriors and the hunters and protectors, we've lost a lot of that in our lives right now. And when sort of men hit that wall and they just don't feel like they can contribute anymore, they get themselves into a really dark place, or what I call the black hole. I can't see my life and my family anymore.
What advice would you give to those men?
Well, I guess for men, the thing is we do mental health really badly. And so, we need to get in early. If you take the average fella, his mental health has rotted a bit. Say his partner's left him, gone into the doctor's surgery, got some antidepressants, got some Valium. The doctor recommends to see a psychologist for your extra bad day. You go off out of the doctor's surgery, you go and see the psychologist. You sack the psychologist because you didn't like that whole event. You start relying on your medications. You take to alcohol. Becomes your psychological crutch, and then we just gradually erode. If you're lucky, the ambulance picks you up, or worse still, you can take your life. So, if we could just get in early, if we just crack the psyche of men, and that's where the great elder comes into. That's why we got to track them down, and we got to find them again to help rebuild us and somebody to help us again in our darkest hour.
Do you think there needs to be increased awareness about the amount of suicides and trips to emergency department as well as COVID cases? I know we've spoken about this before.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, Janie. We all know we're starting to, the figures are getting around out there now that there's 3,000 plus suicides last year. But the biggest thing that outside those kind of stats is there were 65,000 attempts. There was 150,000 that entered the planning phase. That's 200,000 people. That's the MCG times 2 on grand final day in total despair. And yet again, we're just being educated methodically about COVID and what to do and how to do it. And I think, how do we miss this? Why haven't we made the same investment and the same thrust into suicide that we have COVID? Just imagine what we could do. Imagine the changes we could make.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because, we're in 2020. Obviously, we do have a pandemic on our hands. But when you think about it, we have more awareness in terms of mental health. We have more money to put forward into to getting help and so forth. But as you said, we're completely losing control and there's no hope.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And look, outside the area of mental health, you take cardiac disease, which is Australia's biggest killer. We had 30,000 people just drop dead last year. We've got 4 million others walking around with some kind of occlusion in their coronary arteries. Diabetes, 1/3 of us will be a diabetic by 2050. That's about 8 million Australians. So I think we've just got the eye off our physical and mental health, and it's time to refocus on us and to reinvest. People say they value their health, and they value their families, their top two values. But do we align ourselves to our values? I don't think we are right now. We just seem to be doing everything else, and we just let our health erode, and we find ourselves in total despair down the track.
Well, certainly a lot of people, now is the time, isn't it, to really look at ourselves, because we are faced with so much adversity. But unfortunately, we have to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for your advice and your expertise, Paul Spinks, paramedic and founder of Wake Up Call.
No worries. Thanks for having me on your show, Janie.